Okay, buckle up, folks. The Heritage Starship bundle is here, and there is a lot to talk about. Okay, the Heritage Starship bundle is a new bundle from Star Trek Online that contains the Typhon, the Premonition, and the Achilles. These are all very notable ships from past Star Trek games, so that's why we're kind of making a big deal about this. There's been a lot of hype around these. They've been teasing these for the past several weeks now, and now they are finally live on PC and Star Trek Online console. You'll be getting them at a later date. So yeah, let's get into it. This bundle is live right now on PC. It dropped on the 25th, so you guys on PC can go get it right now. Console, this will be available to you on August 22nd, so yeah, a little less than a month. This bundle will contain the Typhon Command Escort Carrier, the Achilles Miracle Worker Heavy Destroyer, and the Premonition Temporal Science Spearhead. Additionally, which will be exclusive to the bundle, will be an Elite Force Sniper Rifle, Elite Valor Fighters, and a few titles, Armada Admiral, Dominion Warrior, and Herc Invader. And the bundle will also include some one-time drops of a Tier 6 coupon, 9 experimental ship upgrades, and 4 Starship slots. The bundle's standard price will be 12,500 Zen, but will be 25% off in the initial sale for the first 2 weeks. So this will be on sale from the 25th to the 8th. So you have until that long to get it for just over 9,000 Zen. However, if you do not want to purchase the entire bundle, all 3 ships will be available separately, available for the standard price of 3,000 Zen, but keep in mind there is also a ship sale going on right now, so if you are paying with Zen and not a ship coupon, you can get these ships for 2,400 Zen right now. But the individual ship sale only goes through the 29th, so you're going to have a lot less time to do that, so get on it while you can. But if you already have any Tier 6 ship coupons, you can also use those instead. Now, since this bundle is already out, that means I can show you the ships right away. So, here's the Typhon. Now, in some surprising news, this is a tactical carrier, meaning this is basically an escort, but it has 2 hangar bays. So this has a 4-3 weapons layout, no experimental weapon, but 2 hangar bays, which that is incredible, kind of, because I mean, a lot of us were expecting this to either be a normal science carrier, which I know a lot of people were not thrilled about, especially considering we just got the Tier 6 Obelisk. Honestly, I was betting this thing that would end up being a Strike Wing Escort, meaning it would only have 1 hangar bay and an experimental weapon slot. But no, they made this thing a full tactical carrier, and considering that this is a C-Store ship, that's kind of incredible. Now, as I said, it has a 4-3 weapons layout. It has a console layout of 4 engineering, 2 science, and 5 tactical, because it is an escort, so it is going to be majority tactical focused. And in the bridge layout, it has a commander tactical / command seat, a lieutenant commander universal, a lieutenant commander engineering / command again. This one is also lieutenant commander tactical, but this one is bugged right now. This should only be a lieutenant level, so don't expect that second lieutenant commander tactical seat to stick around. That will be reduced to lieutenant sooner or later. And then it also has a ensign universal. Going back to the stats blog, it has a hull modifier of 1.375, a shield modifier of 1.15, which fairly high for an escort, but this is meant to be sort of a bulkier escort because it's also a carrier. So that's why it's going to be a little more, honestly, a little tankier than your standard escort, but it's also going to feel a little tankier, having a base turn rate of 12, which still isn't bad, but it's going to be, again, a bit bulkier than your average escort. An impulse modifier of 0.17, which is fairly fast, and an inertia rating of 55, plus 10 to weapons and shield power. And it can equip dual cannons, obviously, because it's an escort. It is a full command ship, so it does have the inspiration mechanic. It has subsystem targeting because it is also a carrier, though on a carrier, on a full tactical ship, I don't know why you'd end up using any of those. And then for the mastery package, it has the tactical carrier mastery package, which has buffs to hangar launch speed, recharge time, buff to hull capacity, energy and kinetic weapon damage, and maximum shield capacity. Now, I'm starting off with the Typhon because despite all the crap I've been talking about it, because I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I think this ship is very ugly. I've never been a fan of the Typhon. It is a brick with warp nacelles. It is the Battlestar Galactica having an identity crisis. It doesn't look like a Star Trek ship, in my opinion, and that's why I'm not super fond of it. But honestly, the stats they put on this thing are kind of fantastic. Not just the stats, but the extra toys it comes with. because the Starship trait on this thing, if you like pet builds, guys, you're gonna want this trait, because what this one is called is repurposed cargo bay hangar, and effectively it's basically a third hangar bay, which is something I know a lot of people have been asking about, putting a third hangar bay onto carriers. And while system-wise, I don't think that's something that's entirely viable, or maybe it's not, maybe it's more viable than I think it is, but maybe it's just something they're really hesitant to do because it would basically render all other carriers completely useless. So by turning this idea of a third hangar bay into a Starship trait, much more, you know, versatile. You know, you can put that on any ship you want at that point, or at least any ship with a hangar bay. Because the way the Starship trait works is anytime you launch a hangar bay, it will launch a squadron of advanced Valkyrie fighters. So basically every time I launch a fighter bay pet, there, I launched these guys, and along with it there are some advanced Valkyrie fighters. And you can tell that those are from the trait because I don't have any Valkyrie pets equipped to the build right now. These are the Elite Valor fighter pets, and these are the Type 7 shuttles. I'll get more into these Valor pets later because these are exclusive to the bundle. Yeah, it's literally just another hangar bay's worth of fighter pets via this Starship trait. So if you like pet builds, obviously you're gonna want this because that is more fighters for you to be doing anything with. Now, if you watched the trailer already, you've already gotten to see the console in action a bit, because this is called Typhon Fortress Mode. It has passive bonuses to all damage with turret weapons, and plus 10 crit severity with any directed energy weapons. So obviously, because it specifically buffs turret weapons, put a turret build on it, because this is me we're talking about. Of course I'm going to put a lazy boat on this with the lazy boat console. So what it does is it's a little bit like jellyfish mode in that when you activate it, it significantly lowers your speed. You are not completely stopped, but you are significantly slowed down. So yeah, don't count on moving a lot while this is active. Though there are a lot of differences from jellyfish mode too. For one, it only has a 30-second uptime. You can see the countdown timer right there, and once it ends, boom, you are back into normal Typhon mode. Now, while you are in Fortress mode, you gain certain buffs, transform into Fortress mode for up to 30 seconds, your flight speed and turn rate are set to 3, disables full impulse, your damage output goes up by 50%, though that is only a Cat 1 buff. Your damage resistance rating goes up by plus 250, bonus all damage resistance rating, which that's fairly impressive. That means this is a fairly tanky console, and after 2 seconds it enables 8 auto turrets to fire a certain amount of phaser damage twice per second at the nearest foe within a 45-degree arc. And because there are 8 of them, they are spread all over the ship, so you will have complete coverage around the entire, the entire arc of your ship. Now, while this does sound really impressive, at least to me it does, honestly, I was watching Casual SAB's live stream earlier. He wasn't able to get that much DPS out of the Typhon Fortress mode, which is unfortunate. And I think that's largely because the turrets only have a 45-degree angle. So at most, they're only going to be firing at one thing at a time. So if all your enemies are clustered in front of you, probably only 1 or 2 of the turrets at most are going to be firing at a time, and I think that's why it's not doing quite as much damage as some of us might have hoped it would. And additionally, like I said, that plus 50% all damage buff is only a Cat 1 buff, so it's not going to be quite as high as some other damage buffs you could possibly get. Now, not to say it's a bad console, like, it's just... It's going to be mostly Space Barbie themed. You can easily make it work, especially because it deals phaser damage, so it's going to be buffed by your phaser damage consoles. Like, all of these are the Hangar Bay consoles with the phaser damage mod, which the phaser damage mod is buffing this console. So it does have that going for it. So that is going to be a plus side and a downside too. So using this on a non-phaser damage build, that's going to be that much less effective. The other big downside with this thing is that it is exclusive to the Typhon Command Escort carrier. It can only be used on this ship, and that is because of the complex animation work that it has, which admittedly does look really cool. It is kind of cool to see the whole ship kind of turtle up a little bit. But yeah, it is a shame that this thing cannot be used on other ships, because, I mean, as you guys know, I have lazy boat builds on plenty of other ships, so it's sad I won't be able to include this on any of those ships as well. So I'm kind of, if I ever want to use this, I'm stuck with using this ship, which stats-wise is impressive, but I'm still not a fan of the look of it. But despite the ship's goofy looks, I feel like this thing is going to end up being the crowd favorite because, I mean, this is a tactical-oriented carrier. It's basically an escort, but with 2 hangar bays, and this is the sort of layout that people have been asking for in a carrier for a long time now. Because, I mean, we're all sick of science carriers. Seriously, they don't perform nearly as well as anything else in the game. The fact that they have 2 hangar bays does not make up for all the other stuff that they lack. They have too few weapons mounts. They don't have a secondary deflector, so they can't make use of a lot of the science seating that they always have. So yeah, this is just a huge breath of fresh air when it comes to carrier gameplay. So like, one of the nice things about this is like, you guys remember my carrier support build that I did on the Awani? I've basically replicated that onto this ship, except I put turrets on it because turret build. But yeah, the fact that it's a full command ship, you're going to be able to easily replicate that. You won't have that secondary America worker seat, but honestly, it wasn't that necessary to begin with. It's just something that came with the Awani. But yeah, you're going to be able to do pretty much the exact same thing here, but you've also got other options too, because this is a full command ship. You could easily make a torpedo build on this. You don't have, and you could also go with other energy weapon build options as well. You don't have to go turret build on this just because Fortress mode buffs turrets. I mean, it does still give that crit severity buff to all directed energy weapon types, which is nice. But additionally, you could just go with like, you know, some other thing and just not include Fortress mode to begin with, because, like I said, it's not doing as much damage as a lot of us were hoping it would be. But really, you could just throw on a cannon scatter volley build and then just have a bunch of fun with having a bunch of fighter pets along with it. Now, if you're not impressed with the Typhon, you might be more impressed with this one, the Achilles, because the Achilles is much more adept to an energy weapon build. So I feel like a lot of people who are more inclined to enjoy energy weapon builds, either with beams or cannons, will probably be more inclined to go after this one because it is a full America worker ship, and America worker is always good for energy weapon builds. It's got a 5-2 layout with an experimental weapon. It is a bit light on engineering consoles, only having 2, and then plus the universals. Side note on that, currently this ship is also bugged because it is missing the original universal console slot that it should come with, because it is a full America worker ship. These 2 are only there because I have this upgraded to T6X2. But yeah, hopefully that'll be fixed soon, and this will have 1 additional universal console slot so I can get a 5th ISO mag in there. Yeah, 5-2 weapons layout, experimental weapon slot, 2 engineering slots, 4 science slots, and 5 tactical slots, which is a little weird in my opinion, considering it's already very light on science seating, but it has a lot of science consoles. I don't know why they didn't move one of these up to engineering to kind of balance it out more, much like the seating is. But I mean, whatever, it changes it up a little bit. Still gives me room for universal console slots. Not a big deal. Really, the big deal is the bugged console slot. So once we can get that fixed, this will be much nicer. In the bridge officer seating, it has a commander level tactical / America worker seat, a lieutenant commander tactical, a lieutenant commander universal / America worker, a lieutenant level universal, and an ensign level science. The rest of this bridge officer seating is pretty well balanced. Like, I've still got a good amount of tactical seating, so I've got a good variety around here. But the 2 universal seats being lieutenant commander and lieutenant, I've still got enough room for my essentials for science and engineering seating. So in that lieutenant universal, I've got my emergency power abilities, and then in the lieutenant commander universal, I'm using as a science seat for my unconventional triggers. Basically, this thing is a lot like the Gagarin America Worker battlecruiser, just more tactical oriented because it's a heavy destroyer instead of a battlecruiser. And honestly, that extra tactical focus, I feel like more people are going to be into that than most people would be into a standard battlecruiser. Unlike me, I actually prefer battlecruisers, but I know more people are going to be probably more into the faster, meaner escorts like this. And while it is really light on engineering consoles, meaning you're not going to get as many ISO mags on there, I know a lot of people are still sticking to the Spire consoles, so you're gonna have more than enough room for those too, because it has quite a lot of tactical console slots. To go over the other stats on this thing, it's got a hull modifier of 1.0, shield modifier of 1.0, It's got a base turn rate of 15, impulse modifier of 0.18, and inertia rating of 60, plus 10 to weapon power, and plus 10 to engine power, and it can equip dual cannons. It has the innovation ship mechanic because it is a full miracle worker ship, and it has the destroyer mastery package, which comes with buffs to accuracy, crit severity, crit chance, and energy and kinetic weapon damage. This mastery package is one of the reasons why I like destroyers so much. It's nothing but offensive traits. Console on this ship is called Micro Quantum Torpedo Phalanx Array, and is meant to replicate the special ability that the Achilles had in Star Trek Dominion Wars, which is that it had all of those micro quantum torpedoes mounted along its dorsal hull. So while it's active, it fires just a barrage of 20 micro torpedoes. They will deal some AoE damage. They will also, what do they do? Okay, I unequipped it because it keeps adding a bunch of extra stats from my traits and stuff into the tooltip, so let's simplify this a bit by unequipping it. While the console is active, you gain significant buffs to your turn rate and flight speed for the 8 seconds that it'll be active. It'll launch 10 microquantum torpedoes at your selected target, and another 10 at... where will it launch the other 10? Oh, the other 10 just go to, like, random targets, I think. So yeah, 10 torpedoes at your specific target and 10 to any surrounding targets. And because it's all AoE damage, either way you have a chance of dealing extra damage all at once. The passives on this thing are when you enter combat, you for 30 seconds you will gain plus 10 to maximum weapon power and plus 20 to just your weapons power subsystem, which honestly, not all that helpful because it's only for 30 seconds, and then once you're out of combat, once you're in combat, it's, you know, ideally you only want to enter combat once. If you're going in and out of combat, that just means you're in a really long, sluggish TFO, and that's just not going to be very fun. The console does decent damage. Honestly, I feel like this thing would do better off on a torpedo build, or at least the clicky ability would, because it's all kinetic damage, so you would, you know, mesh well with other torpedoes. But that passive console really doesn't do anything for a torpedo build because weapon power doesn't affect torpedo damage at all, so it's just kind of eh. So in the end, this thing's really more thematic than anything else. I don't think it's gonna do any it's not gonna greatly affect the torpedo meta at all, you know. So it's fun though. It's really cool looking too. Like if you saw the trailer, yeah, you got a good idea on that. Oh, one thing I should also mention though, there is another downside to this console though. It's got quite a long travel time. It doesn't shoot like really quickly. The torpedo has to launch out of the ship. It goes in and out and around. It has quite a bit of a wait before the thing actually freaking explodes. So if you're ever going to activate this, you might want to make sure you're activating it on, you know, large tanky targets. Don't be using this on small mobs of ships, because odds are you're going to end up killing those before the torpedoes ever reach the thing. Okay, moving on to the Starship trait. It is called Angle on the Bow. While dealing damage with a projectile, gain plus 20 shield penetration and plus 5% increased damage for projectile weapons for 10 seconds, which stacks up to 10 times, which fairly basic torpedo build console. It's not going to be a lot, especially considering that it's only a Cat 1 damage buff. The shield penetration is going to be kind of nice though too, so you know, points for that. But I don't think this is another thing that's really not going to be affecting the torpedo build meta. But if you're looking to start up a torpedo build for the first time and you're not wanting to get involved with the super high-end traits off of like lockbox and promo ships, this is a good option, because keep in mind, again, this is a C-store ship, so you're gonna be able to get this unlocked on your whole account, so that's always a nice thing to get. So like, you know, this and like the Appalachia Blockade Runner, that's also got some really good torpedo build stuff on it. So yeah, those two would make, both of those would make pretty good torpedo build starter kits. The Achilles also comes with a unique experimental weapon, the prototype phaser hexacannons, which, you know, the quad cannons off the Defiant? Instead of quad, now it's hexa, which is 6. It's the lore behind it is basically like they were trying to make a bigger, meaner quad cannon, and, you know, thus making the hexa cannons. But the way this one works is nothing like the quad cannons, because for one, it's an experimental weapon, and it's meant to deal heavy phaser damage over a more longer cooldown time. So like a lot of experimental weapons, this will have a 6 second cooldown time, and it will deal phaser damage to one target. Now, surprisingly, Casual SAB saw this in his live stream pretty consistently, that this thing is doing a lot of damage. In the tests that he made and ones I've made on my own since then, this thing is showing up at or near the top of the damage log pretty much every time. This thing is doing a lot of damage, and I think a lot of that is because the weapon deals phaser damage, and phaser damage is pretty easy to buff, so it's all scaling with your phaser damage buffs, which means this thing is a very powerful experimental weapon for phaser builds, but it's probably not going to be that great for anything that doesn't use phaser damage. So honestly, in the end, if you like phaser builds and you like Escort type ships, you're probably going to want this ship just for this experimental weapon alone, because this thing is doing some pretty impressive numbers. The last ship in this bundle is going to be the Premonition Temporal Science Spearhead, which sadly is probably going to have the least amount of appeal to the general player base, which is a shame, because honestly, I think it's the prettiest one of the three. I mean, I've always had a real attachment to the Premonition because I've always thought it was really cool. And, it's always had a really interesting design. It's vaguely reminiscent to the Sovereign, but it's got this big honking pod here that houses its temporal drive, which I always thought was cool because this is a temporal ship. It travels through time. The whole point of this ship's existence was to travel back in time to save the Federation from the Borg. And the fact that this thing was meant to fight the Borg made me think, or made me hope, that this was going to end up being some sort of battle cruiser or something like that. Something a little more similar to the Sovereign class, given that, it has the fairly strong visual reminiscence to the Sovereign. But no, they made it a science ship, which is a shame, because I'm not huge on science ships. But if they're going to make it a science ship, at least they made it a Spearhead, because that is definitely going to be the better option for a science ship, because it's got that extra weapon slot, which is always nice. So you can lean a little bit more into a more weapons-focused build if you'd like, or you can go pure EPG. And you can go pretty heavy on the EPG stuff on this too, because this ship has 2 temporal seats, which is pretty nice. I know doubling up on specializations is not always great, but that is a pretty much kind of a theme with this bundle. Everything has had double specialization seats of everything it has, but double temporal, not a bad thing. Honestly, the big criticism with the bridge officer seating here is that lieutenant level engineering seat. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's got a 4-3 weapons layout, which is pretty typical of a Spearhead. It's got 3 engineering, 5 science, and 3 tactical consoles. In the bridge officer layout, it's got a commander level science / temporal, a lieutenant commander universal / temporal, lieutenant commander tactical, lieutenant level engineering, and an ensign level science seat. Honestly, I kind of wish they would swap those two, because anything above ensign level engineering really isn't going to do that much for a science vessel. Okay, moving over to the other stats. It's got a hull modifier of 1.2, shield modifier of 1.3. It has a base turn rate of 13, impulse modifier of 0.18. A lot of fast ships on these things. Pretty much everything in here has had an impulse modifier of 0.18, and an inertia rating of 40. It's got power bonuses to +5 to weapons, +5 to engines, +5 to everything, basically. And +5 to weapons, engines, shields, and auxiliary, which is weird. On a science ship, you normally want to see that on something more weapons focused, mainly with more focus on the weapons, but normally I would expect something like this on a cruiser, not a science vessel. More reason for it to have been a cruiser in the first place, but whatever. It's got the sensor analysis, because it is a science vessel, subsystem targeting, it has a secondary deflector, obviously, and it has the molecular reconstruction mechanic, because it's a temporal ship, and it has the standard science vessel ship mastery, which is one of the big annoyances with science ships. All of the masteries on them are exactly the same, which only offer buffs to exotic damage, shield hit points, healing, and shield regen and hardness. That first one being the only one that is going to be of any use. I should also mention there is a bug on this ship as well. As you probably noticed, the stats did not say that this ship could equip dual cannons. But it should, because it's a Spearhead. So the ship should be allowed to equip dual cannons and dual heavy cannons, but currently it cannot. So hopefully that'll get fixed soon. Another thing that's broken is the tooltip for the Starship trait, so you really can't tell what it does beyond the fact that it's just a hold. Though there really isn't that much more to it, because the description for the Starship trait is just, while this trait is slotted, activating any control bridge officer ability will also trigger an AoE hold to the target's location. So basically you put a hold on a target, and anything around it will also be held. So basically, it kind of turns any hold ability into some level of gravity well. The tooltip information should say, hold several targets within 5 kilometers centered on the main target for 5 seconds, which 5 seconds is not a long time. So honestly, not a very good Starship trait. The console on this thing, however, is by far the most interesting part about this thing. It is called the Gemini effect, and if you're familiar with Star Trek Armada, you might already have an idea of what this thing does. Its passive has a plus 22 exotic damage, which is weird, but I guess not that weird considering this is available on a science vessel. God, why couldn't you be a battle cruiser? Please, why couldn't you have been a battle cruiser? But the click ability on this thing is it summons the Enterprise and then makes a second Enterprise. Click it fires off the Gemini effect, and boom, you've just summoned 2 Enterprise Fs. So yeah, they'll stick around, fight for a while like any other summoned pets. That's cool. Additionally, when you activate this console, you will also gain plus 20% to firing cycle haste, which always good for an energy weapon build, and plus 20% is nice, and it lasts for 30 seconds, so overall pretty decent buff. And the console has a 1 minute 30 recharge time, which is lower than your typical console. Usually you get a 2 minute recharge time, so you're gonna get a little more use out of this one than your average haste buff console. Overall, the Premonition is a pretty decent science vessel if you're into science vessels, being a full Temporal Spearhead. It's a decent setup for that kind of thing, but honestly, I feel like more people going for EPG stuff are probably going to lean more toward the Chekhov anyway, because that is a science warship, so it's basically just the same thing as a Spearhead, but it has a Spinal Lance ability, and that has temporal intel on it. No, sorry, it has intel temporal, so backwards. But still, I feel like more people are going to end up preferring this thing as an EPG build layout than this thing, which sucks, because this one is so much prettier. Look at this thing. It's gorgeous. I want to like you so much more than I do, but why couldn't you have been a battle cruiser? Seriously, this thing as a temporal battle cruiser, that would have been cool as hell, but no, it's a science vessel. Okay, moving on to the bundle exclusives. This thing does come with the Elite Force sniper rifle, which, I mean, it's the sniper rifle from Star Trek Elite Force 2, but it's also the phaser rifle from Star Trek Nemesis, so I don't know why they're advertising it as the Elite Force sniper rifle. Yes, this was the sniper rifle from Elite Force 2, but it was just the normal phaser rifle from Star Trek Nemesis first, so why not advertise it as that instead? But I guess they really wanted to have the video game hookup, but also have the just the canon connection as well. But I don't know, it's okay, but honestly, not the first weapon I would have picked from Elite Force 2. Honestly, if we're talking weapons from Elite Force 2, I would have much preferred something like the Federation Assault Rifle, which is basically just, you know, Starfleet shotgun, or something along the lines of... That's not the compression rifle, is it? There, I had to find a YouTube video to find a picture of it. This is the one I'm thinking of. This would have been a much cooler inclusion from Elite Force 2 rather than just the Star Trek Nemesis sniper rifle. Yeah, I mean, it's neat for what it is, but I mean, I'm already not that big on sniper rifles, so I wouldn't say I would go out of my way to pick this up. The other bundle exclusive, this one is a lot more interesting, is the Elite Valor Fighters, which are a version of the Valkyrie class, which you can see they're very similar. And this is because these are also from Star Trek Invasion. They're a bit different. These are, for one, they immediately get picked up at elite level, so you don't have to, you know, start out at the basic ones and then, you know, pick and choose. You literally just get the elite level versions out of the bundle. So that alone is already like a huge advantage for people looking to set up new characters and stuff like that, because, you know, buying elite level fighters is expensive. So being able to just pick up some elite ones right out of the C-store, really nice to have, because these are account reclaims, so you can pick up as many of these as you need. But what they have is they have a phaser array, they have a pulse cannon, torpedo, photon torpedo launcher. They can use high yield 2, and they can use emergency powered weapons 1 and 2, which is a little weird. Honestly, the weirder thing, though, is that these are actually performing really well. I know, again, I watched Spencer's live stream when these first came out, and these were actually performing better than the standard Valkyries, which is weird. I don't really understand why, because I would have thought that the normal Valkyries would still do better than these, because those have torp spread on them, whereas these just have torp spread 3 on them. These only have high yield 2. But I guess the beam plus cannon combo under SAD is really doing its job. Though that said, I would probably still prefer like a pair of Type 7 shuttles over these because of all the debuff those things get. But honestly, pair one of these with one Type 7 and put those on the Valkyrie, not the Valkyrie, the Typhon. Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty deadly combo. So if you're wanting to pick up these fighters, you're gonna have to pick up the whole bundle. But I'd say that's really only necessary if you're really wanting to push more damage just out of your general fighter pets, or if you're really just wanting like a full theme build setup for the Typhon, so that way you can have both versions of the different pets that it had in Star Trek Invasion. But yeah, I wouldn't super go out of my way for so if you're wanting to just like get the individual ships instead, that's fine too. It's really not going to be that crazy. You don't need to be like frantically thinking you need to have those exclusives from the bundle. They're not that big of a deal unless you're really wanting to get those exclusive pets. The rifle, on the other hand, I don't think is that big of a deal at all because sniper rifle. Ugh. Overall, though, this bundle, I'm very happy with it. This is really nice. The individual ships it comes with are all really nice. Like I said, I feel like despite the Typhon looking like a fat brick, is probably going to end up being the crowd favorite because of all the pet focus it has. This is something that players have been wanting for a long time now, and that is a carrier in the C-Store that isn't just another science carrier. This is a full tactical carrier. You're going to get a lot more use out of this than a normal science carrier in methods that you wouldn't normally have available to you on a normal science carrier, meaning that you can get a lot more weapons onto this thing. It's a shame that the Fortress mode doesn't do as much damage as it, could, but, whatever. But the trait on it, that's really nice because it is, again, something that players have been asking for a while now, or at least a variation on that idea in that it's effectively a third hangar bay. And I know there are plenty of people who have been saying, why don't they just put a third hangar bay on carriers? Well, they kind of have now, so shut up. Then there's the Achilles, which is going to be a great energy weapon platform. Honestly, if you're a fan of ships like the Gagarin, this is going to be a more tactical focused version of that. The console on it is okay, the trait on it is okay, but the real value there is the experimental weapon. And then with Premonition, it's a decent science vessel, but I mean, the Chekhov is still probably going to be the more favored version if you're looking at C-Store science ships. The trait on it is garbage, but the console on it, that's pretty cool. I'm really amused by that. So yeah, God, I still really wish that thing was a battlecruiser though. I would have been so much happier. But yeah, the ships themselves are fantastic. So if you're wanting to pick up all three of the ships, then yeah, I would probably recommend picking up the bundle. Otherwise, just get the ones you like with a coupon, or even just with Zen, because like I said, there is a ship sale on right now. So yeah, get on that while you can. So yeah, that is the Starship Heritage Bundle, now available in Star Trek Online on PC. Like I said, console, you guys are going to be getting that near the end of August. So, just be a little patient for that. Like I said, I am very impressed with this bundle. The ships inside of it are really nice. Those pets that are exclusive to the bundle, they're pretty good. They're pretty good too. I wouldn't, go out and break the bank for them. But if you're into them, go for it. But if you're not into them, don't feel like you have to get them because, it's just a pet. And the ships themselves, they're really nice. You get them individually, get them all together, whichever you like. There's kind of something there for everyone, I feel like, because the Typhon, really good for a pet build, also because it's a command ship. It's also good for a torpedo build. Then there's the Achilles, good for an energy weapon build. And then there's the Premonition, good for a science build. But because it's a Spearhead, honestly, you can probably switch that up a little bit. You can probably put a decent, energy weapon build or a Deucide build on it, so don't feel like you have to stick to EPG on the Premonition. I still wish that was a battlecruiser, though, not a science ship. Why couldn't you have been a battlecruiser? Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and while you're down there, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. If you would like to further support the channel, you can hit that join button to become a member, or you can find the link to the merch store down below, or if you're ever shopping on the Epic Game Store, be sure to use my content creator code STU1701. It helps me out a little bit, and I really do appreciate that. Either way, though, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.